Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about toxic workplaces.
Dun, dun, dun.
We've all had a bad case of the Mondays. We've all had a challenging week at work, maybe even a challenging quarter. And after 2020, I think that we've all had a challenging year. But today what we're going to be talking about is how is it that we delineate what is a toxic work environment? Is your work environment toxic? Is it truly toxic? And what does that mean?
Okay, Chastity, we see it everywhere. Facebook is plastered with this conversation about toxicity, toxic workplaces, toxic employees, toxic bosses. So what really are the most common signs that somebody might be in a toxic work environment?
It's funny you should ask. I have a list.
Oh, look at
right
that.
Here. Poor leadership. Does that create a toxic work environment? Would you define poor leadership as being toxic work environment?
There's a couple of questions that we can ask back to you to better understand, is this truly toxic or are we missing something here? So first thing I'm going to ask you, is it poor leadership or have we not properly defined who the leader of the practice is? A lot of times we look to the owner or the dentist or the office manager as the leader of the practice, but that may truly not be the person who is leading the team, the person who is motivating and inspiring. There's a difference between a manager and a leader. So have we properly defined who the leader of the practice is?
Now, a second part of this is, I would say, one thing that really jumps out to me is that sometimes it is the leadership style. So it's not necessarily that you have a poor leader, but that their leadership style doesn't align with your personality. Now, this is huge because our communication styles don't align. It's going to feel like we are constantly butting heads. Like nothing seems to click. So you could really delve into taking time to learn what their communication style is, because sometimes just learning their communication style resolves all of that. And then you're able to understand why it is that they kind of make the choices that they do, the way that they lead, and oversee some of those barriers within the communication. Sometimes it might not be the right fit. So maybe the practice isn't the right fit for you just because the leadership style is something that is too much to be able to kind of work with or to navigate, to make a line. And so that's empowering to say this isn't the right fit, because then you're making a choice. You're saying, okay, I totally see your leadership style. I can respect that, but it's not the right fit for me. Now, the next one that I know is really common within dental practices, it seems to be just based on the way that we're structured, is cliques that lead to either exclusion or gossip or anything like that.
Okay, we don't have cliques in the dental practice. No. Of course we have cliques in the dental practice. So it's important to understand, as humans, cliques are natural. What it is our way of feeling like we belong. We are consistently seeking belonging as human beings and trying to find our people. What's different here is what Chastity is saying is cliques that are segregated out and saying that you don't belong in my clique, where they gossip about you, where it becomes a me versus them mentality. We want to make sure that we're also not creating that, where we notice them as a group and we're saying, well, I don't belong with them, so I'm not going to try to relate to them, and I'm going to stay over here and make that even worse. We want to make sure that we're understanding that cliques are natural, and if we can first accept that, then is it truly toxic?
A lot of times a conversation may need to happen. What is the challenge? Is there a certain conversation that needs to happen to make sure that everybody is on the same page? Really focusing in on that. What is the conversation that may need to happen to be able to break down any barriers? Are there differences in communication style? However, I would say that this does become toxic as this has been a long-standing thing that has been going on for years and years in the practice. It's tried to be addressed, but no conversations bring any type of resolution. If there's not leadership that's able to help to be able to resolve this, then it can become more of a toxic work environment.
If the clique doesn't allow you to have a voice or an opinion in any matter, and everybody's okay with that, and you are getting individualized out, that does become toxic.
Another way that we have seen a toxic work environment described is there being an overload of work.
Oh, yeah.
So that feeling of being burnt out because you are just getting lots and lots of work piled on top of you. So would you describe that as toxic?
It depends on the situation.
It always depends on the situation.
I'm going to throw a question back at you. Are you the only one who is getting this excessive workload? Or is everyone just overworked? Are you getting singled out and everything is piling on you? Or as a whole team, is the entire practice just way overworked and everybody is complaining? Both feel like a toxic work environment. So if we dig a little bit deeper into that, if I'm the only one who is taking on tons and tons of workload, is it perceived, or do I actually have like a way longer list than everybody else? What can happen is a lot of times if this list is building up and it is things that I hate doing, things that just drain my energy, I am going to feel way more overworked. So you may have people doing things that they love and that they don't mind doing and they're not complaining, and you're sitting here going, oh my gosh, I hate doing this, and it's draining you. That's a difference between a toxic work environment and getting burnt out because you're not putting your energy where it fulfills you, where you enjoy. Secondly, if you are an individual who is getting this big list put on you, are you receiving that list? Are you a personality who doesn't like to say no? Are you a really hard worker and people are looking at you like, oh, Christina can just do it. Just give it to Christina. She'll get it done. And then you're just getting it done. Is that a toxic work environment, or are we not having the conversation?
So that's a big part, is what are the conversations that could happen? So if this is a situation where it's one person that is constantly kind of being inundated with additional tasks or, really busy schedules, there's a conversation that could happen. So really either identifying boundaries as to saying like, this is what I'm able to do.
Yeah.
This is realistic or this is unrealistic. That may be a conversation that needs to happen. Maybe there's not clarity in what things you are doing. So I know that sometimes you may have a list a mile long of other things that you have to do, but other team members don't know that that list exists for you. So making sure that there's also clarity in that, saying, okay, I may have additional time here, but this time is utilized by doing X, Y, and Z, and making sure that there's really that clarity. However, if it's the whole team that is feeling really burnt out and overwhelmed and busy, that's a conversation to be able to take to the leadership team or to the dentist to say, what are our goals? What are our priorities? The whole team is feeling this way. This is what's going on, and looking for a good resolution for that to see if there is a different solution. Now, however, when you cross that toxic kind of line, that's when you're being singled out.
Yes.
You've had these conversations, but you're still being unfairly assigned a significant amount of work.
It would look like, Chassie, you're the one who needs to open the practice. You're the one that needs to stay late. You need to work through lunch. Everybody else can get a lunch.
Yes.
But Chassie, you need to stay and you need
Exactly.
to do this.
And so it really falls down to not having respect for your time or your needs to be able to kind of do like the basic life sustaining things, run to the bathroom, eat food, have a drink of water. Like if you're not able to do things like that and the conversations have happened, that's what I would say that's really crossing that line into more of a toxic work environment. All right, now the last sign that we're going to cover is favoritism.
Ooh.
So maybe there's that one employee that it feels like the boss really favors. They're able to
get everything they
get
want.
what they want. They get the time off that they want. They're able to adjust their schedules how they want.
Mm-hmm.
Everything seems to just be able to go the way that they want it to go.
Of course, I'm going to throw a question back at you. Are you being completely singled out, or do these two just truly connect more easily? Do they communicate more easily? Do you struggle to communicate with this person? Do you struggle to connect with them? Are you just not on the same level? And these two are just like so quick. Sometimes you see this a lot with like one assistant and the dentist. Like they just end up creating this way of like transferring instruments. They don't have to talk to each other, and it just becomes this symbiotic relationship that they enjoy so much. And they're like, this is so easy. Mm-hmm. That they then start to request that assistant in the op all the time with them. And you're like, okay, hi, other assistant here. I do work for you. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we take it very personal. We want to be liked. We want to connect, and we especially want that from our leader, right? We want to be able to look at them and be like, I did a good job, right? And get that praise from them. So this can feel really degrading for us, but it may be completely unintentional. And it may just be looking through a different lens and saying, maybe they possibly connect on a level that I don't connect with them. And is there a way that I could connect more deeply with them?
It once again falls down to understanding what's the personality style. That might help you to be able to better develop that relationship. Taking the time to learn their personality, really looking at this situation from just an outsider perspective to say, have I had challenges communicating with this person that I feel is favoring someone else? If so, if that is, a true statement in your mind, then maybe it falls down to more, what is your communication style? What is their communication style? How can you kind of tweak the way that you're communicating with them to be able to better develop that relationship? So I would say that this really crosses the line from being just a communication thing to becoming toxic if the relationship in regards to the favoritism is stepping outside of a professional relationship. If that's it's not just a professional relationship within the office, then that would be a concern. And then also, what is the experience that you're having in regards to any type of verbiage that's used towards you? Now, in the process of favoring another employee or another team member, if you're being, kind of blatantly degraded, if you're being told that what you're doing is not good enough, that it's subpar, that it's, that you're not great at what you do.
If you could only be like Chastity, if you could only do what Chastity does, I'm actually just going to ask Chastity because she's my favorite, and literally using those words and making it very obvious that you're here and they're there. That is more of a toxic.
That would be a toxic work environment, because really what should happen is if you have a good leader within the team and someone recognizes that maybe it's your clinical skills that need some work, or maybe it's your verbiage skills that need some work, a good leader is going to look at you and say, hey, these are some areas we can focus on. How can I help you to improve these? How can I work with you to improve these areas? What are some solutions that we could come up with? And that is not belittling or diminishing to your character. It is completely supportive and with your growth in mind. So those are the types of environments you want to be in, where you're supported and your leader really wants you to grow and to flourish.
Let's be honest, toxicity is a real thing. And I don't want anybody to feel like the situation that they're in couldn't be toxic. But what I do want you to take out of this video is sometimes toxicity, and using that word, is a socially acceptable way for us to be comfortable with a situation, for us to easily walk away, or for us to get the respect of others for what we're going through and to help them to empathize with us. But there's also another way to look at it. Asking yourself these discovery questions of, how have I approached this? What if I approached it differently? Have I truly connected with this person's personality and communication style? And have I contributed in any way to this? Will help you decide if it truly is a toxic situation. Now, there are just some things that are absolutely not acceptable, that are grounds for walking away, that there is no conversation that needs to happen because it is a toxic work environment. So those include any sort of sexual harassment, verbal harassment, actual physical abuse, throwing of instruments, aggressive anger. We've heard all of these before.
Yes, illegal or unethical behavior. Those are all grounds for just saying this is not the right fit. And it's going to possibly require some follow-up as well to ensure that you're kind of covering your bases, or that if there was something illegal or unethical that's happening, it may be a matter of reporting that or kind of following some future steps as well.
You all deserve to be in an amazing workplace that is the right fit for you. And it is always okay to say, this just isn't the right fit for me, and not to have an actual reason behind it. So make sure you're in the right fit for you. If you are struggling with an actual situation and you're wanting to know, what conversations can I have to overcome this, because I love where I work, but there's this one thing that really is pestering me, don't forget we're here. So always reach out to us, leave us a comment, and do not forget to subscribe to the Dental MVP.